Welcome, Ayubowan. So today we are going to have a look at Book 13, Test 2, and this is mainly for the academic IELTS candidates, right? So if you are doing general IELTS, you don't have to do this reading, but if you feel you want to practice, that's fine. But the only thing is you know what the difference is, right? So general is much more easier. The context or the reading passages are extracted from more general material like, books, newspapers, magazines, like that. So before we do the discussion session, right, I'd like you to actually do the reading paper. So download Book 13, Test 3, right, and do the test. Time yourself for 1 hour and answer all 40 questions. Okay? So pause the video here, do the paper, and then let's have a look at the answers. Alright, so I think you would have completed the test by now. Let us have a look at the answers. So here, we've got the answers. Test 3, reading passage 1. Now, when you're having a look at these kind of answers, make sure that you check for the proper spelling. Furniture, sugar, ropes, charcoal, bowls, hormones, cosmetics, dynamite. Okay, so now this ropes has the S, hormones, cosmetics, they all have the S letter at the end. So make sure it's the plural form, right? Number 9, false, false, not given, true, not given. Then we move on to reading passage 2, B, C, A, B. 18, we have recording devices. Number 19, you can write fathers or you can write dads. Either word is fine. You don't have to write both. Either one is fine. Then we have 20, bridge hypothesis. 21, repertory. 22, VES. You have to write VES or you can write audio recording VES. But if you just write only audio recording, only this word, right? If you write just this one only, answer is wrong. VES should be there. Vocabulary, F, A, E, C, H, A, B, D, shells, lake, rainfall, grains, pottery, B, A. So look for the information relating to fruits and we can find that in paragraph 3. The thick fibrous middle layer produces coconut fiber or coir, right, which is kohubat in Sinhala, right, which has numerous uses and is particularly important in manufacturing ropes. So the fiber from the middle layer, like the kendi, right, or coir, is used to make ropes, those kendi kind of things, right, which you kind of make kohubat and all of that. So now what is it used for? It is used, manufacturing means making, for what? Ropes. So therefore the answer is going to be ropes. Question number 4. Fruit's inner layer or the shell acts as a source of what? right? Now, inner sauce, you can even say inner layer or shell, right? At the end of para 3, it states, woody inner layer of coconut shells are described. An important product obtained from the shell is charcoal, right? So it should be 2 words, right? So what do we get? We obtain charcoal, which is widely used in various industries. Now, the inner layer of the shell, therefore, provides charcoal for industries and for cooking. So, what is the source? It's a source of charcoal. Okay, charcoal. Right. Fruit's inner layer, when halved, used for, right? So, fruit inner layer halved. Halved means when it is in half, right? As we continue reading para 3, the other use of the inner layer, the shell, is mentioned. When broken in half, that is halved, right? The shells are also used as bowls. So when they are in halves, right? Broken into half, what do they use it as? Bowls in many parts of Asia. So the answer is, it is used as bowls. Coconut water, a source of for other plants. In para 4, we find the uses of coconut water. Coconut water, which is enjoyed as a drink, but also provides the hormones which encourage other plants to grow more rapidly and produce higher yields, right? So coconut water, which is enjoyed as a drink, but also provides the hormones which encourage other plants to grow more rapidly and produce higher yields. So what does it do? Coconut water, right? We enjoy it as a drink, but apart from that, it also provides hormones which encourages other plants to grow rapidly, right? So coconut water, a source of hormones for other plants. You don't need the full stop here when you're putting the answer there. Question number 7. Coconut flesh, oil, milk for cooking and something else. The author continues in para 4. Dried coconut flesh, copra, is made into coconut oil, milk, which are widely used in cooking for different parts of the world, as well as in what? Cosmetics, right? So coconut oil and milk are used for cooking as well as making cosmetics. So, oil and milk for cooking and cosmetics. Use it for both. Right, so moving on, question number 8. Coconut flesh. Glycerine is an ingredient in what? It is also stated in para 4, a derivative of coconut fat, glycerine, acquired strategic importance in a quite different sphere, that is, different perspective, as Alfred Nobel introduced the world to his nitroglycerine-based invention, dynamite, right? So what happened? Glycerine was, there. It was like a derivative, okay, of coconut fat, but it took quite a different view or, a turn when this person, Alfred Nobel, introduced to the world nitroglycerin-based dynamite. So, nitroglycerin-based, that glycerin was one of the basic ingredients, right? So, Nobel's invention was dynamite, and that for glycerin was an ingredient for what? For dynamite. Okay, so it was one of the main ingredients when making dynamite. Questions number 9 to 13. Do the following statements agree with the information given in reading passage 1? You have to say yes, no, or not given. Coconut seeds need shade in order to germinate, right? So, seeds need shade to germinate. Now, these key words can be found in para 5. There, the writer tells us how coconut seeds germinate. Literally, cast onto a desert island shores with little more than sand to grow in and exposed to the full glare of the tropical sun, coconut seeds are able to germinate and the root. Glare means, right, so coconut seeds need shade. Now here it tells, right, that it is exposed to the full glare of the tropical sun. And that's when they are able to germinate. Glare means when it's nice and shiny and bright, okay? And it has that unpleasant light up here. Oh, there's a glare, okay? That unpleasant light. So we often wear sunglasses to protect against the glare of the sun. It is completely the opposite of what we say shade, right? So therefore, it says they need shade, but actually they need a full glare. So the answer is going to be false. Question number 10. Coconuts were probably transported to Asia from America in the 16th century, right? So, coconuts were probably transported to Asia from America in the 16th century, right? Now, if we go to the last paragraph, the writer tells us about the origins of coconuts. 16th century trade and human migration patterns reveal that Arab traders and European sailors are likely to have moved coconuts from the South and Southeast Asia to Africa and then across the Atlantic to the east coast of America. So here it was telling us coconuts were probably transported to Asia from America. No, it was taken from Asia and it was moved to the east coast of America, right? So the sentence tells us that the coconuts were probably moved from Asia to America, which is the exact opposite of this statement. And therefore, the answer is false. Question 11. Coconuts found on the west coast of America were a different type from those found on the east coast, right? So coconuts found in west coast America was different to the ones from the east coast. Go to the last para. The writer simply tells us in America, there are close coconut relatives, but there is no evidence that the coconuts are indigenous. Therefore, we don't know if the coconuts on the west and the east coasts of America are different or are they the same. We really don't know. So therefore not given. Passage 1, the coconut palm. So questions 1 to 8, complete the table below. Trunk, timber for houses, and the making of what? So we have trunk, timber, we need it for houses, and the making of what, right? So looking for the keywords, we find the reference to the trunk and its uses in para 2. The writer says, this is an important source of timber for building houses and increasingly being used as a replacement for endangered hardwoods in the furniture construction industry, right? So therefore, they use it to build houses and they also use it to make furniture. So therefore, construction means making, right? So making of what? Making of furniture. Question number 2. Flowers' stems provide sap used as a drink or a source of what? Right? Now, coconut flowers are also mentioned in para 2. The flower stems may be tapped for their sap, right, to produce a drink, and the sap can also be reduced by boiling to produce a type of sugar used for cooking, right? So that means you can make sap from flower stems. Apart from that, it can be used as a drink, or you can boil it and make a kind of sugar. So it can be used, you can get sap, it can be used as a drink, or you can boil it and use it as sugar, so a source of sugar. Alright. Fruit's middle layer used for what? Okay. So fruits, middle layer, coir fibers, right, are used for what? Now, when you have a look at the information relating to fruits, you can find this in paragraph 3. The thick fibrous middle layer produces coconut fiber. Coir, which has numerous uses and is particularly important in manufacturing ropes. So what is it used for? The middle layer used as coir, and it is used for making ropes. So what do you make it? Middle layer is used for ropes as well, right? So when we look at the information relating to fruits, we can find this in para 3. The thick fibrous middle layer produces coconut fiber, which is known as coir. So moving on to the next question, question number 12. All the coconuts found in Asia are cultivated varieties, right? So we have to think all Asia cultivated varieties, right? Now, this piece of information is given in the last paragraph. In Asia, there is a large degree of coconut diversity. And evidence of millennia of human use. But there are no relatives growing in the wild, right? So there are no relatives growing in the wild, which means all the varieties must be cultivated, okay? So therefore, I would say the answer is true. Question number 13. Coconuts are cultivated in different ways in America and the Pacific, right? So they are cultivated different America, Pacific, right? Now, the key words are also found in the last paragraph. Here, it is stated that in America, there are close coconut relatives, but no evidence that coconuts are indigenous. These problems have led to intriguing suggestion that coconuts originated on coral islands in the Pacific and were dispersed from there. Thus, the only information given here is that the origins of coconuts are not known for certain, but nothing is stated about the methods of cultivation either in America or the Pacific. So we don't know about the regions because it's not given. We would tell the answer is not given. Passage 2. How baby talk gives infant brains a boost. Questions 14 to 17. Look at the following ideas, questions 14 to 17, and the list of researchers below. Now, I hope, as I always tell you, you have the paper in front of you. If not, you should be having it, right? You should have the hard copy with you or the soft copy open on one side of the screen, and on the other side you have my video minimized. Okay, you have to make sure that you are engaging with the lesson because I don't have the reading paper on the screen to show you, right? The importance of adults giving babies individual attention when talking to them. Okay, so adults giving babies individual attention when talking to them. If you go to para D, the author writes about the study of the Nyron Ramirez, right? She says, we also found that it really matters whether you use baby talk in a one-to-one context. The more parents use baby talk one-to-one, the more babies babble. The more they babble, the more words they produce later in life. A one-to-one context means a situation in which the parent is alone with the baby, talking to the baby and giving the baby that necessary attention, right? So therefore, the most appropriate answer would be B. 15. The connection between what the babies hear and their own efforts to create speech. If you go to para F, the author refers to a study in which Patricia Kuhl took part. The results suggest that listening to baby talk prompts infant brains to start practicing their language skills. Thus, when babies listen or hear baby talk, this stimulates their brains to try to practice their own language skills. The passage continues. Finding activation in the motor areas of the brain when infants are simply listening is significant because it means the baby brain is endangered in trying to talk back right from the start, and suggests that 7-month-olds' brains already trying to figure out how to make the right movements and will produce words, right? So create speech means produce words, and therefore answer would be C. Question 16. The advantage for the baby of having two parents each speaking in a different way. Now, if you go to para C, the author tells us about the study of Mark Van Dam. He found that mothers and fathers, the two parents, right, each spoke to children in a different way. The idea is that the kid gets to practice a certain kind of speech with mom and another kind of speech with dad. So the kid then has a wider repertoire of. In paragraph C, the author tells us about the study of Mark Van Dam. Now he found out that mothers and fathers, the two parents, right, each spoke to children in a different way. The idea is that a kid gets to practice a certain kind of speech with mom and another kind of speech with dad. So the kid then has a wider repertoire of kinds of speech to practice. Repertoire means kind of like a collection, right? The advantage for the baby when the parents speak in different ways is that it grows up having a wider range, like a collection, a repertoire of kinds of speech which it can then practice. So the most appropriate answer would be A. 17. The connection between the amount of baby talk babies hear and how much vocalizing they do themselves. Now, in the middle of para D, the author writes about a study which found that the more baby talk parents used, the more their youngsters began to babble. And Nyron adds, those children who listened to a lot of baby talk were talking more than the babies that listened to more adult talk or standard speech. So she found, therefore, that there is a connection between the amount of baby talk in which babies listened to and how much talking the babies did. Right? Vocalizing means babble or talking. So the most appropriate answer would be B. Questions 18 to 23. Complete the summary. Researchers at Washington State University used something together with specialized computer programs to analyze how parents interacted with their babies during a normal day, right? So where was this? At the Washington State University. And what did they use? A special computer program for what? To see how they interact with their babies on a normal day, right? So we find a reference to Washington State University in para C. So Mark Van Dam of Washington State University at Spokane and colleagues equipped parents with recording devices and speech recognition software to study the way they interacted with their youngsters during a normal day, right? So researchers at Washington State University, what did they use? They used recording devices. They were given so that with a special program, speech recognition software, specialized computer program, they analyze how they interact with the youngsters during a normal day. So the answer should be recording devices. Question number 19. The study revealed that blank tended not to modify their ordinary speech patterns when interacting with their babies, right? So the study revealed that they tend not to modify their ordinary speech patterns when interacting with their babies, right? Now, if you go to para C, Vandam explains dads didn't raise their pitch or fundamental frequency when they talk to kids. In other words, fathers spoke to their babies in a similar way that they would speak normally. The pitch and fundamental frequency refers to the ordinary speech patterns that fathers use to talk to their babies. So, the study revealed that dads or fathers don't tend to modify their ordinary speech patterns, right? So you can use either one, dads or fathers. 20. According to an idea known as the blank, they may use a more adult type of speech to prepare infants for the language they will hear outside the family home, right? So what are our keywords according to an idea known as the what? They may use a more adult type of speech to prepare infants for the language outside, right? So continuing with the findings of the study, in paragraph C, the author says of fathers, right, their role may be rooted to what is called the bridge hypothesis, which dates back to 1975. It suggests that fathers use less familiar language to provide their children with a bridge to the kind of speech they'll hear in public. So, the author suggests that fathers may use less familiar, right, which is more adult language, to talk to their babies, which helps to prepare these infants for what they will hear when they are not in the family home. So, according to an idea known as what? Bridge hypothesis, they may use a more adult type speech to prepare them for the language they hear outside the family home. Question number 21. According to the researchers, hearing baby talk from one parent and normal language from the other expands the baby's what? Of types of speech they can practice. Okay? According to researchers, hearing baby talk from one parent and normal language from the other expands the types of speech, right? Now we find the answer for this question at the end of para C. We know from the previous question that fathers speak to babies using less baby talk and more normal speech, right? So the idea is that the kid gets to practice a certain speech with mom and another kind of speech with dad. So the kid has a wider repertoire of kinds of speech to practice. A repertoire refers to all kinds of things that a person, in case a baby, is able to do. So baby is able to practice different kinds of speech with each parent. So, expands the what? It expands the baby's repertoire. University of Connecticut collected thousands of 30-second conversations between parents and their babies, fitting 26 children with audio recording vests that captured language and sound. Thus, the scientists recorded the language and sounds using audio recording vests fitted to the babies, right? So, speech and sound using special that the babies were equipped with. So, with special what? Vests that the babies were equipped with so that it could record their language and sounds. 23. When they studied the babies again at age 2, they found that those who had heard a lot of baby talk in infancy had a much larger blank than those who had not. Right? So at the age of 2, again when they had a look at the babies again, what did they have? A much larger what? Now, we have to find more information on the study conducted by the scientists. So again, our answer is in para D. When the researchers saw the same babies at age 2, they found that frequent baby talk had dramatically boosted vocabulary. So what does it mean? That they had a much larger vocabulary. And that should be the answer. Questions 24 to 26. Reading passage 2 has 6 paragraphs A to F. A reference to a change which occurs in babies' brain's activity before the end of their first year, right? So change, brain activity, end of the first year. Now, the answer is in paragraph F. The author writes about a publication called Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. In this publication, a study was reported which was carried out with the babies of 7 months to 11.5 months. In other words, before the end of the first year, the infants were placed in a brain activation scanner that recorded activity in a brain region known to guide the motor movements that produce speech. The results suggest that listening to baby talk prompts infant brain or the infant brains to start practicing their language skills. So listening to baby talk leads to changes in the activity, right? So therefore the answer is going to be F, para F. Next one, an example of what some parents do for their baby's benefit before birth, right? Now we can find this answer in para A. Most babies start developing their hearing while in the womb, prompting some hopeful parents to play classical music for their pregnant bellies. Most babies therefore start to hear when they are still inside the body of the mother. So some parents start to play music for these unborn babies to stimulate their hearing, right? So an example of what some parents do, they play music. Playing music is an example, and therefore the answer would be A. Question 26. A mention of baby's preference for sounds and other babies, right? So a mention of baby's preference for the sounds that other babies make. Now, if you go to the beginning of para E, it states, Another study suggests that parents might want to pair their youngsters so they can babble more with their own kind. Researchers from McGill University and the Université du Québec, Montreal, found that babies seem to like listening to each other rather than adults. So what babies like? They like to hear each other babbling more than they like to hear adults talking. More details of this study are given in the para, and these refer specifically to the sounds made by babies. So therefore, a mention of babies' preference, they like to hear more baby sounds, and what their preferences are is stated in para E. Question number 27, passage 3. Whatever happened to the Harappan civilization? Questions 27 to 31. Reading passage 3 has 8 paragraphs A to H. Question number 27. Proposed explanations for the decline of the Harappan civilization. Causes for the decline of the Harappan civilization are found in para C. There are different suggestions or examples. Changes affecting water supply and agriculture, population growth, a breakdown of trade, invasion, and even environmental changes related to climate. Right? So therefore, it is unlikely that there was a single cause for the decline of the civilization. So proposed explanations for the decline is detailedly explained in para C. So the answer is C. Next one. Reference to a present-day application of some archaeological research findings. If you go to the final para, it relates what we can learn from the archaeological research into the Harappan civilization to tackle some issues today. By investigating responses to the environmental pressure and threats, we can learn from the past to engage with the public and the relevant governmental and administrative bodies to be more proactive in issues such as management, administration of water supply, the balance of urban and rural development, and the importance of preserving cultural heritage in the future. Right? So reference to a present day application. So it's talking about the present day things here, and therefore the answer should be H. Question number 29. A difference between the Harappan civilization and another culture of the same period, right? So it has to be a difference between the Harappan and another culture during the same period. The question takes us to look for a comparison between the Harappan civilization and another particular culture at the same time. The answer is in para A. The people of the Harappan culture did not leave pictures of themselves, but their lack of self-imagery at that time when the Egyptians were carving and painting representations of themselves all over their temples is only part of the mystery. So, a contrast between the Harappan civilization and Egyptian culture at the same period is given in A, where the Harappans didn't like self-imagery, whereas the Egyptians were carving and they were doing paintings and they loved it. Answer is in para E. Question 30. A description of some features of Harappan urban design, right? So we've got the features and then we've got the urban design, right? If you go to para B, Dr. Cameron describes Harappan cities. They had great baths, craft workshops, palaces and halls all laid out in distinct sectors, right? Houses were arranged in blocks with wide main streets and narrow alleyways, and many of their own wells and drainage systems, right? So the most appropriate answer is going to be B. Question 31. Reference to the discovery of errors made by previous archaeologists. Now you can see that in para D, right, we find several references to the mistakes made by previous archaeologists. Many of the archaeological sites were not where they were supposed to be, completely altering understanding of the way that this region was inhabited in the past. The new research team found inaccuracies with the published geographic locations of ancient settlements ranging from several hundred meters to many kilometers, right? So all of those errors of previous archaeologists were discovered, and it was by the research team of Dr. Petrie and Dr. Singh, right? So the most appropriate answer is going to be D. Questions 32 to 36. Complete the summary below. By collecting the snails and analyzing them, they discovered something, right? Okay, so if you go to E, right, we find the reference to the research of Yama Dixit and David Hodel. The researchers gathered shells, right, from snails, from the sediment of an ancient lake, used geochemical analysis as means of tracing the climate history. Therefore, the researchers collected and analyzed the shells of these snails. So by collecting the shells, they collected the shells of the snails, they started to analyze them. They discovered evidence of change in water levels in a what? Okay, change of water levels in a what? In para E, the author continues, as today, the major source of water into the lake is likely to have been the summer monsoon. But we have observed an abrupt change 4,100 years ago when the amount of evaporation from the lake exceeded the rainfall, indicative of a drought. About 4,100 years ago, there was a sudden change when the water level in the lake fell, right? So therefore, levels in a lake, right? Where do you see those levels? In a lake. Questions number 34. This occurred when there was less of something than evaporation and suggests that there was an extended period of drought. In the same sentence in para E, we find the answer. This is the same period when the amount of evaporation exceeded the rainfall. So what was less? Rainfall, right? Evaporation exceeded the rainfall. So evaporation was more, rainfall was less. So the answer is going to be rainfall. Petrie and Singh's team are using archaeological records to look at what? From 5 millennia ago. So we find our keywords at the beginning of para G. Petrie and Singh's team is now examining archaeological records and trying to understand details of how people led their lives in the region 5 millennia ago. So they are analyzing the grains cultivated at that time, trying to work out whether they were grown under extreme conditions, right? So here, moving on, what did it look at, right? So you can see the remaining bit, but they are analyzing, they were looking at what? The grains cultivation, right? So therefore, the best answer would be grains. Okay? Question number 36. They are also examining objects, including something, so as to find out about the links between inhabitants of different parts of the region and whether these changed over time, right? So we have examining objects to find out about the links between inhabitants and then whether these changed, right? The answer is in para G. The researchers are also looking at whether the types of pottery used and the other aspects of material culture were distinctive to the specific region. So they were having a look at what? The pottery as well as other aspects. So what should the answer be? Pottery. Okay. So this gives us an insight into the types of interactive networks that the population was involved in and whether those changed. So the answer is going to be pottery. 37 to 40. Look at the following statements and the list of researchers below. Finding further information about the changes to environmental conditions in the region is vital. Now we find the answer at the end of para F. Considering the vast area of the Harappan civilization with its variable weather systems, explains Singh, it is essential that we obtain more climate data from areas close to the two great cities, right? Ravindranath Singh is saying that we must find more climate data about the variable weather systems in the area. So therefore, the most appropriate finding further information about the changes to environmental conditions in the region is vital. So what is the most appropriate answer? B. Vital means essential. Okay. Question 38. Examining previous patterns of behavior may have long-term benefits. In the last paragraph, Cameron's ideas relate the work of archaeologists to possible benefits today from studying such work. And Petrie says that by investigating responses to environmental pressures and threats, we can learn from the past to engage with the public and the relevant governmental and administrative bodies, to be more proactive in issues, and it goes on, right? So Petrie believes that the work of archaeologists in investigating how past civilization responded to environmental challenges can help us tackle such problems today. So I think the most appropriate answer is going to be A. Question number 39. Rough calculations indicate the approximate length of a period of water shortage. In paragraph E, Yama Dixit comments on the effects of drought on the drying of a great lake, right? However, it is David Hodel who comments on the possible length or duration of this drought. So we're looking at the approximate length or the period of water shortage, right? So Hodel also adds, we estimate that the weakening of the Indian summer monsoon climate lasted about 200 years before recovering to the previous conditions. So I think it was David Hodel who really mentioned this drought, the rough calculation, right? So therefore, the answer should be D. And the last one, information about the decline of the Harappan civilization has been lacking. In para B, Cameron says there is plenty of archaeological evidence to tell us about the rise of the Harappan civilization, but relatively a little about its falls, right? Fall means decline. So, information about the decline of the Harappan civilization has been lacking, right? So, I think that is the place where we can find the piece of information, and the answer therefore is A. I think, right, we've had a look at all 40 questions, and with that, we've finished the discussion for Cambridge Book 13, Test 3.